Hi, I'm Rob Dahm, and this is how you properly weight balance a Corvette. If you want to continue this sort of insanity, go ahead and like the video. Look at no hands, and that's not a GoPro. That is right, Jarrett's back.
Back.
His boyfriend broke up with him.
You bitch.
What we're doing today is looking at the engine, showing just a quick overview. Obviously, you can go to Cletus and find all the full details, but this is from a Rotary guy's point of view. I want to look at this engine, but more importantly, we're putting the 13B into that engine bay, and we're going to take a look at just what it takes to adapt the engine with both the engine mount and the transmission mount. That's all in today's video. Here is the LS6. So on the engine, there's actually engine mounts right here. An engine mounts to the middle of this motor. The fun part about that is that's actually one of our two major issues. Look at down here. That's the engine mounts. Look at how far they are from the bell housing. That's not that far, but look at a two-rotor. That's almost in front of the two-rotor. Our engine mounts are actually going to be on the front side of the motor. So we're going to compare those two in a second. This bell housing goes goodbye. That's a push type clutch, just like a Turbo 2 or an FC type of RX-7. So we're gonna use a Turbo 2 bell housing to solve our problem. So we're gonna take this bell housing off. We're gonna throw the rotary engine in here. Let's clean it up just a little bit first. For all of my rotary friends out there, like this video. If you don't, I'll put this engine in an RX-7. I swear to God I will. You better like this video. These gloves from Harbor Freight, do not use these in a medical setting. I've had about 4 different sets of them where they straight up have holes in them already. Like I said, this thing's got 130,000 miles on it, and it shows here. What you guys notice is that we're going to be using this subframe, and that's where the suspension's on and the engine mounts are. I just want to clarify that we are actually using that as part of our build. Everything else is subjected to change, but we're going to use the majority of those parts on the ground too, just not that. What's also really important is that we are cleaning it up just so it looks more presentable on camera, especially while we're sizing things up and getting the Instagram photo that we're looking for. The whole frame's about to be bent and heated and all that sort of shit, so all of this stuff is really coming off. Everything else that's on here, including the subframe, all of that will come off of this car. But for now, we're just cleaning it up so that way it's not so grody. To really put the car in the spotlight, we're gonna roll it backwards. The upper control arms on the front aren't connected, but the shock towers are in their holes, so hopefully this Corvette behaves enough. But we're gonna pull the exhaust out from underneath it, the headers out from behind it, and then roll this bad boy backwards, and then really compare the motors side by side. Look at these cast iron heavy beasts. There's so much to improve on those. I'm talking about weight savings, probably a lot of other benefits, but definitely you wouldn't want the exhaust going down. We want it going up to 2 different spinny boys. That would be the real thing. Now this is going to be really fun, and the reason why, this is the mid pipe. There's actually a cross section inside of it. This is the back of the mid pipe, which is the front of the titanium exhaust catback. We're keeping this catback. I want to hear what a rotary sounds like through a Corvette exhaust. So we'll find a way, because rotaries don't have 2 split exhausts, but we'll find a way to make that work. I'm thinking that's why this car made more power. That doesn't look like a stock. There's no stock cats. They might be resonators, they might be cats, but they're like high flow. And that gives us the chance to clean up underneath where all the mess is made. And it gets us closer to the engine, to its new home. Ooh. So that's one thing we really haven't gone in detail about, other than one picture teasing this. So this is a stock 2-rotor 13BREW. Now it doesn't have the W, which is the twin turbos, but it is the core from a 93 Mazda RX-7. This is, like I said, from Mazda, but you can't buy this directly. I know Adkins also sells it, but I did get it from Mazda. Mazda approved this Corvette as basically one of their race team vehicles and allowed me to purchase this motor. Why not a 3-rotor? Why not a race engine? Because I want to show you guys, especially my hardcore loyal rotary following, that a 2-rotor stock core motor can make more horsepower and torque than an LS6 in this car. We're gonna be proving that very easily. With the right turbocharger, this thing will make more horsepower and torque in that chassis, and the world will see just how powerful a rotary engine can be. They think of these cars stuck in the 90s, early 2000s, but turbo technology has improved so much, this thing is a monster, for as small as it is. Oh, it's like pouring out coolant. There has to be a coolant plug on the motor because it just keeps pouring it out randomly. Okay, seriously, where is all this coolant from? If it stops the moment I get this set up.
It literally stopped.
Oh my God. Come on. Come on. It's gonna start back up. Crappy LS. Look at how much smaller this is than that big boy over there. Oh, how small. It really is.
I wonder how much smaller it is.
Oh yeah, we're gonna definitely measure that up in next video. Okay, you ready for this?
No.
Oh yeah, there we go. It's actually a very easy engine, especially when there's no spark plugs, to spin over by hand. Look at this. You can't build compression without spark plugs. Very little rotating mass already, and no compression to prevent you from twisting it. We're gonna take the flywheel protection off because that is one thing that we're concerned about is connecting the two together. So the flywheel is gonna stay. That pilot bearing in that Corvette has to go inside of here, and then the splines, we deal with measurements from here. On top of that, we then have to figure out the bell housing lengths and hope to God they're in an acceptable range. It's time to wheel it over to its new home over in the Corvette. I've wanted to do this ever since I first saw and heard an LS-based RX-7, and you hear blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I want nothing more than undo all of that pain that's been caused over the years of people mocking all of my cars from being not reliable. This is my middle finger to all of you. Hey. Just the tip, and put it in. Oh, this is not even gonna be long enough. Oh my God. Not the first time I've had that problem. Shit. Look at where the engine sits in the bay. Like, come from this side. We still have like 2 feet to go. We're definitely gonna have to get the bigger engine hoist. No way around this. It weighs so little that doing this to the engine hoist is doing nothing. Bigger engines be pulling up off the back. So that little input shaft right there has to sit at the center of this flywheel. And while it is down about 1 inch to 2, because the whole transmission's sitting on its kind of brace, the engine is still way the hell up there. Oh my God, that's so small. That flywheel is supposed to be inside of that bell housing. It's still 2 inches forward.
just look at it from like a straight side angle.
Okay.
It's way too small,
and what's
dude.
funny is, most of my cars, I don't even think this is gonna have 2 pulleys. It's just gonna have 1. Oh my God.
What the hell are you gonna put right here, dude?
A front trunk. You can tell that we're at a loss for getting all the way back there, and of course there's a 2-ton engine crane that we can get, but at the moment we already knew that this piece was compromised. We have to cut it off anyway, so I might as well do it in fashion just to make up room to fit a rotary engine all the way in the back. There we go. Oh, look at that. Look at how much stress this car was under. That's just by simply cutting it. It's not even cut all the way through. That's how much stress that metal was under. Because it was giving me weird feelings just while I was cut through here. It's a very thick piece.
piece, surprisingly.
Holy shit, that was this thing?
Yeah, that's why I was being very careful. I went through, I did one pass and then left the area here very like light and then just gently pushed in, and that you saw what you saw. Wow, this frame's under some serious pressure. This is the moment. I gotta seize it and own it. Consider these moments golden. You want me to pick up an M&M? Whatever. We're gonna take a measurement of the oil pan and everything to really see what our expectation is. We haven't measured anything. What I need to know is the oil pan gonna hit the subframe, or is it going to clear it? Because that makes two totally different scenarios. So from there to the front of the oil pan is 16 inches. That means 16 inches from right there, the edge of the pilot bearing, right into the middle. That's 16 inches right there. Yeah, the motor's not going to clear this. It's not going to sit down here. So we have to do something about the oil pan. The next thing we need to figure out is the height of the block where the E-shaft is to the edge of the oil pan, which is about 7 inches. And the reason that matters is this is the center right there. So 7 inches, that's the center of the engine. So the engine's gonna sit down there. We're gonna have to modify the subframe. So to summarize, the problem is twofold, and it's a good problem to have. One, the oil pan, the place where the oil pan is too high, so it actually hits the subframe. And two, it's too far forward, it hits the subframe. So that means in both ways, both forward and down, we have to modify the subframe to allow for the rotary engine. The important part about that is I want to be able to throw the LS6 back in here. No, not because of some sort of magical plans with that, but because this car is a salvage vehicle and we need to get it approved, unsalvaged, rebuilt from Michigan, and I want to have the LS when we do that so it doesn't raise so many questions. That means to me, with this cast aluminum, something in here has got to give. Keep the normal motor mounts, reformulate this area here, and then make a custom oil pan, which was always the case. Built to Apex was going to make a custom oil pan for this. It's becoming very apparent that that oil pan is going to be needed. The kind of payoff for all of this is this right there to the center of the motor mounts is about 15 inches. So going to the motor, saying that that's right there, that means that the motor mounts, the holes themselves are going to be like right here. So looking at that engine, those motor mounts are out here. Our issue is that we've got only so much clearance from the center of this to what any oil pan can be. There's about a 6.5 inch difference between the center of the engine and the edge of the irons. That's non-negotiable. We have to get it 6.5 inches from there to here. The oil pan can be made from like a built to Apex thick piece of aluminum, say a 1/2 inch to up to 1 inch thick, and do like a dry sump sort of solution. That still only puts us at 7 inches total to 7.5 inches total. But what we did off camera was jack this up right here. This guy is the center of the engine, right? So our goal is to get from here, draw a figurative line down from there to 7 inches, and then trace it to here, and boom, we hit into this. What we realize is that this frame rail is bent, giving you the perception that this is higher than it should be. So that'll come down about a 1/2 inch back here, 2 inches in the front. If we modify this torque tube to come up just a little bit, a slight angle, we might run into harmonic issues or vibrations on the drivetrain. We would definitely clear this with a flat oil pan. We might end up making our own sort of subframe solution here, or trimming this out, reinforcing it from the bottom. We've got a couple different solutions, but we're really close. That's the best part about it. It's almost like it was meant to be. Whoa. Yeah, see, now we're on the area of the oil pan that's low. We're so close. What's really impressive is we're actually pretty close. The front of the engine is almost where it needs to be. The pilot bearing input shaft in the center, where the pilot bearing actually is, are like this. And so they're actually hitting. My goal is to just get them lined up. So that means even though the motor looks pretty level at the moment, the rear still has to come down about 1 inch. What do you say? I think here's how we're gonna end this video. We would normally do horrible endings, but lately we've been on fire. We're taking the stand off, and you're gonna see what this engine looks like albeit an inch forward, so still got another inch back. You're gonna see what this engine looks like now.
Holy shit.
We can put a third seat in the front of this. The radiator and the intercooler, I mean, yeah, we'll have more room for the intercooler, but that's gonna go even far forward. So, I mean, we're gonna straight up have all of those done. All of this extra space. Oh my God. And again, we're still this far off.
Oh, this is a sick shit.
That is really cool.